There is a profound secret about consciousness that, once understood, makes you completely unmanipulable by external systems. Picture this. You're watching someone who appears incredibly successful, confident, in control. But here's what you don't see. They're living in a hall of mirrors, trapped by their own reflections, dancing to rhythms they never chose. They've mistaken the echo for the voice, the map for the territory, the symbol for reality itself. Today, I want to share with you what the ancient Taoists understood, what the Buddha discovered under the Bodhi tree, and what every sage throughout history has pointed toward. The art of living in such complete harmony with reality that no external force can disturb your inner peace. This isn't about becoming hard or defensive. It's about becoming like water, fluid, adaptable, yet impossible to grasp or control. The grand illusion of the separate self. We begin with the most fundamental delusion of human consciousness, the feeling that you are a separate ego, enclosed in a bag of skin, confronting an alien universe. This sensation is so convincing, so pervasive, that we rarely question it. Yet it is, as I like to say, a magnificent hoax. Consider this. You didn't come into this world, you came out of it. Just as the ocean waves, the universe peoples, you are not a stranger visiting this cosmic dance. You are the dance itself, temporarily forgetting its own steps. But here's where it gets interesting. Most people, sensing this disconnection, try to build stronger defenses, thicker walls, more sophisticated control systems. They become like someone trying to lift themselves by pulling on their own bootstraps. The harder they try to be in control, the more out of control they become. This creates what I call the anxiety of the separate self. Always defending, always grasping, always vulnerable to anyone who knows which buttons to push. But what if there were no buttons to push? The dance of opposites. In the Taoist tradition, there's a beautiful principle called the mutual arising of opposites. Light defines darkness, sound defines silence, self defines other. They don't fight each other. They dance together in eternal play. Most people get caught in what I call the good versus evil trap. They identify with one side of life and reject the other. I am strong, they say. I am not weak. I am good, they declare. I am not bad. But this very rejection creates a shadow, a hidden territory that others can exploit. When you truly understand that you contain all opposites, that you are simultaneously the wave and the ocean, the figure and the background, something remarkable happens. You become like the Taoist sage who employs his mind as a mirror. It grasps nothing. It refuses nothing. It receives but does not keep. Example. Imagine someone trying to make you angry by calling you weak. If you've integrated your strength and your weakness, if you've accepted the dance of opposites within yourself, their words simply bounce off like raindrops on a mirror. There's nothing for them to grab onto. The art of Wu Wei, effortless action. Wu Wei is often translated as non-action, but this misses the point entirely. It's not about being passive. It's about acting in accordance with the natural flow of things, like a skilled sailor who uses the wind rather than fighting against it. When you live in Wu Wei, you stop swimming upstream against the current of existence. You discover that reality is not your enemy to be conquered, but your dance partner to be joined. This doesn't make you weak, it makes you unstoppable. Most manipulation depends on resistance. It's like martial arts. An attacker can only throw you if you give them something solid to push against. But what if you became like water? What if, instead of resisting their force, you simply flowed around it? Example. Someone tries to control you through guilt. Instead of defending yourself or counterattacking, you simply acknowledge the guilt without identifying with it. Yes, guilt is arising. The guilt becomes like a cloud passing through an empty sky, present but not permanent, noticed but not owned. The wisdom of insecurity. Here's a paradox that will liberate you. The desire for security and the feeling of insecurity are the same thing. To hold your breath is to lose your breath. The more you try to make yourself safe from life, the more afraid of life you become. True freedom comes from embracing what I call the wisdom of insecurity, the understanding that change is the only constant, that uncertainty is the only certainty. When you stop trying to make the river stand still, you discover the joy of swimming. This doesn't mean being reckless. It means recognizing that life is fundamentally an improvisation, not a script. And the best improvisers are not those who try to control every moment, but those who can dance with whatever arises. Example: someone threatens your job security to control your behavior. But if you've truly accepted the temporary nature of all forms, if you've embraced the wisdom of insecurity, their threat loses its power. You might still act to preserve your job, but you do so from choice, not fear. If this way of seeing is beginning to resonate with you, consider subscribing to explore these depths further. The most profound transformations often begin with the simplest recognitions. The liberation of conscious suffering. Most people live in constant flight from discomfort, pain, difficulty. But what if I told you that the very things you're running from are the keys to your freedom? When you voluntarily embrace what others spend their lives avoiding, when you sit with loneliness instead of fleeing it, when you face failure without defending against it, something miraculous occurs. You discover that these experiences are not solid, permanent things, but temporary weather patterns in the sky of consciousness. This is not masochism, it's wisdom. When you've consciously experienced and accepted the full spectrum of human experience, no one can threaten you with it anymore. You've been to those territories and discovered they're not as terrible as the mind makes them out to be. The person who has sat with their own mortality cannot be controlled by the fear of death. The person who has embraced their own foolishness cannot be manipulated through shame. The play of cosmic consciousness. Now we come to the ultimate secret. You are not who you think you are. The ego you defend so carefully, the personality you've spent years constructing, these are like costumes in a cosmic drama, necessary for the play, but not your true identity. Your real nature is the eternal consciousness that peers through all eyes, thinks through all minds, lives through all lives. You are the universe experiencing itself subjectively, playing an infinite game of hide and seek with itself. When this recognition dawns, not as a concept, but as a lived reality, manipulation becomes impossible. Not because you resist it, but because there's no separate self left to manipulate. The ego that could be threatened, flattered, or controlled is seen to be what it always was: a useful fiction, a temporary role in an eternal drama. From this perspective, attempts at manipulation become almost comical. It's like someone trying to threaten the ocean by capturing a wave, or trying to control the sky by grasping a cloud. The freedom you generate. Here's what most people don't understand about presence like this. You don't become threatening because you're dangerous. You become threatening because you're awake. Your very existence calls into question the sleepwalking that most people call life. You're not dangerous to their bodies. You're dangerous to their illusions. You're not threatening their security. You're threatening their insecurity. Your presence asks uncomfortable questions without saying a word. Why do you live in fear? Why do you accept thoughts that make you suffer? Why do you remain imprisoned by ideas about yourself that aren't even true? This is why awakened consciousness has always been both revered and rejected. It reminds people of what they really are beneath all their elaborate personas and defense mechanisms. The choice before you. So here you stand at a crossroads. You can continue living as a defended ego, constantly vigilant, always vulnerable to the next manipulation, the next threat, the next disturbance to your carefully constructed sense of self. Or you can begin the great adventure of discovering what you really are when all the masks are removed. This is not a journey for the faint of heart, for it requires the courage to die to everything you think you know about yourself. But I promise you this, what emerges from that death is not another ego to be defended, but the deathless awareness that has always been your true nature. And that awareness is as vast as space, as fluid as water, as ungraspable as the wind. The path is simple but not easy. Begin where you are. Notice the resistance in this moment. Feel the places where you're swimming upstream against the current of what is. And then, gently, like a leaf falling from a tree, let go. If you're ready to explore this pathless path, to dance with reality instead of fighting it, subscribe and join this exploration of consciousness. In our next conversation, we'll dive deeper into the practice of letting go, not as a technique, but as a way of being. Remember, you don't become dangerous by what you can do to others, but by what your presence forces them to see in themselves.